We want to make sure we hear our players, make changes where we can based on that feedback, make sure the game is ready for launch, and then even beyond launch.
What a load of bullshit.
You know, I really didn't want to come back with another negative video. That's all I've kind of done since I started uploading, but I feel like something needs to be said about this. Modern gaming sucks at the minute, and it has done for a while, but in my opinion this is the worst state we've ever seen the industry in terms of greed, unfinished products, lies, just really everything. It's just went out the window, and this is getting ridiculous in my opinion. My enthusiasm for any game coming out in the future is at rock bottom. I don't feel any excitement towards any game at the minute, and I can't tell you how sad that is to say as someone that's played games for like 13 years. To go on Steam, look at the store page and just see a bunch of games, half of which I feel like are just going to end up being shit and unfinished, and the other half that just don't spark my interest is just kind of miserable, to be honest. About 6 months ago I uploaded a video about Call of Duty Vanguard, a game which I had no expectations for, but in that video I basically just talked about how I felt like the game was boring and unfinished, monotonous, and a lot of other general terms you may have heard being passed around with modern games, but unfortunately this sentiment just applies to like every game released at the minute, especially Halo Infinite and Battlefield 2042, two games which had a lot of hype around them and ended up just being unfinished, unplayable in some instances, and that's a real shame. And like, I know some random Northern Irish dude making a video on his 30 subscriber YouTube channel isn't gonna change the world or anything, but I just wanted to talk about my thoughts, I guess, because this is kind of a rough period to be in if you're a fan of video games, and I feel like we need to do something about this shit because this is just not right. I feel like a good place to start would probably be the most recent consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, both of which I feel like are just underwhelming, to be honest. Now, I don't own a Series X, but I have a PS5, and it's an okay console, it gets the job done, but like comparing the leap from PS4 to PS5 to the PS2 to the PS3, there is no contest in terms of which one was a bigger generational gap. Here's an example: GTA San Andreas on the PS2, GTA 4 on the PS3, which one of these looks better? Now let's look at a PS4 game to a PS5 game. Doesn't this just kinda look the same to you? I don't know, but I don't see a massive gap here. Sure, the PS5 game looks better, but is it that much better? Is it $500 and sold out all around the world better? I don't think so. Sure, ray tracing and frame rate might be a big difference. I personally don't care for either of those, aside from maybe 60 FPS, which is basically the norm now anyway. But really, guys, is this what the fucking PS5 is? Like, that fucking minor? Now, I am content with my purchase of my PS5, but that's because I've never owned a PlayStation console before, and it gives me a good opportunity to play the exclusives in the best way I can. I'm not emulating all that shit on PC, but if I had owned a PS4 and I went to this, I wouldn't really think this is a big change. And let me tell you, the Xbox Series X is a fucking disaster in comparison. This shit is not even a new console, this is just a better Xbox One. And it costs $500, and this is Xbox's big generational leap. You guys couldn't be asked to make a new fucking menu for your console, and you expect me to buy this shit? Really? If your biggest selling point of your fucking modern day video game console is that you can play games released on a console in 2005, am I going to dump $500 on it, or am I just going to buy the fucking 360 for like 30 off a charity shop and just play all the games that way? I might be an addict to Halo 3, but I'm not paying $500 just to play it at 120 frames per second, Microsoft. I need something new every so often. At the very least, Sony's offering some exclusives. God of War Ragnarok's on the way, and we know that a couple other games are in development. Microsoft has nothing. They bet all their money on Halo Infinite, and without spoiling much of the video, that did not work out very well. You guys need to step your game up because this shit is very disappointing. I remember being excited for the Series X whenever I was on my Xbox One, I hadn't moved to PC yet, and I just remember being gradually more and more disappointed until I eventually just said, fuck it, I'm not buying this, and I just moved to PC, shelled out $1,000 or $2, and yeah, that's expensive. I get most people can't afford that, but you gotta give people who can't a better console than this. You can say all you like about your console being able to run 5,000 gigafucks per second, but if I have nothing to play on it, I don't care. And I think most people won't care unless they just play fucking FIFA every year. But what is a console without its games? This is where I get more negative. I'm gonna try dial down the swearing a bit, but god damn it, dude, could any games come out that aren't unfinished disasters? The two games that come to my head at the minute, Elden Ring and Dying Light 2, they both released finished products. I am sure they're both great games, but they're getting praise for being finished games. Is that how far we've sunken? A game deserves praise for being finished? Like, okay, I get COVID existed, but you gotta have higher expectations than that. I think the biggest example of unfinished games can be traced to the biggest 3 games released last year: Halo Infinite, Call of Duty Vanguard, and Battlefield 2042. In my opinion, 3 boring as hell unfinished games. What a surprise. I think most people agree that Battlefield was a disaster. It's basically at this point a joke. But the fact that people seriously defend this stuff and say, oh no, because in like 3 years it'll be finished. It's really? Really, dude? Imagine if in like 2006 a game came out and it wasn't finished. It got shit on. Everyone hated it. Look at Sonic 06. That game isn't finished. Nobody likes it. What if Sonic 06 came out today in the exact same state? Would you all just go, oh no, because they can just patch all this stuff in the future? That doesn't excuse the fact that they released the game in this state, does it? Does the promise of patches really justify to you the complete shell of a video game that was released and the lies spewed out by the devs before it came out? Like, are you guys that pathetic? I'm sorry, that's the only word I can use to describe it. I've made an entire video about Vanguard, so I'm not going to tread on my opinions too much. But yeah, I kind of just agree with everything I said in that video. My opinions haven't changed. It's boring and it's unfinished. Enough to say about that. But Halo Infinite, that's the one that hurts me the most, because this really should have been Halo's big return to the spotlight. This was the game that had the most potential since 3 in my opinion, and they just completely blundered it. The game is not finished, there is no joke here. It's literally just not finished, and it's not glitchy, it works. But there's no content here, and it's just so obvious this was just put out to make a quick buck, and not actually because they really cared about the fans that much. And for a franchise with such a legacy and all the build up and everything, just to see it come out as a complete joke, a beta being charged full price essentially. Oh, so sorry, it's not being charged full price because of free to play and all that shit, but it's just, it shouldn't even be free to play. It should be a game. I should pay money for it and I should get what I bought. I shouldn't have to pass off all my complaints of a game just because it's free to play. Oh, you got it for free, so you can't really complain. I would have bought it for full price, and if I had, I would have been so angry. It would have been daylight robbery if I had bought it for full price, but alas. And it's all because of this live service model games keep pushing nowadays. The idea that you can buy a game unfinished and it will be patched over time. And sure, you might get more content over time than you did at launch, but really this should have been here day one. Look at Halo 2, that game was developed in like a year basically, yet Bungie still manages to make it a finished game because they cared that much about the product. 343 had 6 years and they had to cut Forge, co-op campaign, and it's still released unfinished? Like, come on dude. You gotta show some amount of respect to your fans by at least delivering some expectations instead of just lowering them immensely to make the blow of an unfinished game that less painful. The main takeaway from live service is that you're not getting more content over time, you're hoping that the devs add all the content they had to cut before launch to the game during its lifespan, and that's all there is to it. Live services are nothing more than an excuse, a shady promise made by devs that they'll fix your game over time, and if they don't, well, they'll just run away with your money and they'll never see it again. Speaking of money, oh Jesus, microtransactions. I'm honestly going to keep this brief because this is a dead horse at this point, but this shit is getting way too greedy. Like, I think Halo Infinite's the perfect example of this yet again, but I'd like to speak generally. $20 for a skin in a video game, that is too much. I don't care how you spin it, I don't care if the game's free, I don't care how good the skin is, that is too much. I think 5 at most is a decent price for a skin in a game, but 20, that's pushing it too far. Games like Fortnite have done this for years, and even back then, back when I was playing Fortnite like everyone else in the world was, I never bought skins because that's just too much. You could buy an indie game with that price. Like, isn't that crazy to you? You could buy a video game for the price of a virtual skin. A virtual outfit for your character costs as much as an entire experience, usually better than the game you're currently playing anyway. Pay to win might not be an issue anymore, but just these cosmetics, they're getting ridiculous in how much they cost, and they're just not even good half the time. Look at Call of Duty's bundles, these look like shit to me, and people buy this stuff? Really? Have you nothing better to spend your money on? Like, really? Look at this Attack on Titan bundle, this is fucking awful, and this shit costs like $20. Jesus Christ, is this the best you can do? And I think Call of Duty gets it the worst, because not only are their bundles probably the worst out of all other free-to-play games, but the games aren't even technically free-to-play. Warzone might be free-to-play, but the multiplayer for stuff like Vanguard and Modern Warfare still costs money, and they're still expecting you to buy all these cosmetics on top of that. If you bought Modern Warfare and bought 5 skin packs, that's like $160. Think of that for a minute, $160, that's like the price of a PS4 at the minute. But I feel like I need to move on. I feel like I've just been ranting this whole time about how I don't like the modern gaming standards. I need to talk positively. Let's be honest, I've heard you screaming this down your mic. Martin, it's the best game in decades, it's a masterpiece, it's easily Game of the Year. You need to talk about it positively, and you need to explain why it's going to hold gaming standards for years to come. And I agree. I 100% agree. You heard it here first, folks. Grand Theft Auto 5, expanded and enhanced, is Game of the Year, without discussion. This is undeniable proof that gaming is apexed at this point. Never before have you been able to play a game seamlessly at 60 frames per second with ray tracing. Yes, okay, the ray tracing is like barely noticeable, but it is there. It is there, trust me. 60 frames per second, beautiful graphics. This is unbelievable. Rockstar have outdone themselves yet again by crafting the most immersive experience ever before seen in game. Oh wait, this is just the PC version. Hang on, let me show gameplay of expanded and enhanced just so I can show you how massive this jump is. Oh. You know, I wasn't actually wrong. This is kinda gonna hold the standard for years to come. This is fucking pathetic. I can't even say anything, this is just pathetic. Rockstar have outdone themselves, and continue to do so. Just now, GTA Plus. GTA Plus. This is fucking robbery, this isn't even a deal. You get 500k a month for like $8, and that's the selling point of this. But let me just put that in perspective for just a moment. PlayStation users used to get 1 million a month before expanded and enhanced came out, and What can you actually buy in the game with 500k? A fucking SUV? A couple guns? The shittiest business? Is this it, Rockstar? Half your content costs over like 2 million? Why are you not giving that money out to people who are paying extra for your new shitty subscription service? Why do you continue to taint the reputation of a game you made 9 years ago that is unanimously seen as one of the best open world games of all time by continuing to milk the fuck out of its shitty ass online mode? It's ridiculous. It's extremely disrespectful to your brand as well. Grand Theft Auto is like the pinnacle of gaming. Most people agree that. There hasn't been a bad GTA game, at least a mainline one, ever made probably. And yet, you guys still fuck it up so badly. Red Dead Online is a corpse at this point. Red Dead 2 received unanimous acclaim from like everyone for being an amazing story and all that. I haven't personally finished it, but you guys just let its online mode die like that just because it wasn't making as much money. And it's Rockstar we're talking about. Rockstar are doing this. If that doesn't show you how sad this industry's gotten, I don't know what will. I guess to conclude, you guys need to stop defending this stuff. Look at what's actually coming out at the minute and tell me that you're excited for the future of gaming. We have a couple great games coming out. I'm sure that Breath of the Wild 2 will be great, and I'm sure God of War Ragnarok will be fantastic, Spider-Man 2. But when I say that my most anticipated game at the moment is Sonic Frontiers, a game I am absolutely convinced will be fucking dog shit based on forces, that is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. Stop defending companies that milk you dry and stand up for once. Stand up to this oppressive, greedy bullshit, and maybe we'll see a difference in this industry. And that's all I have to say, I guess. I don't know what else I can honestly add to this. People are talking about it all the time, but no one's making a difference. Personally, I've refused to buy a game that's over 60 bucks, and I don't buy any microtransactions. I didn't buy GTA Expanded and Enhanced, and I just don't want to buy any more modern video games until they're good. I will buy modern games. I bought Elden Ring, I bought Dying Light 2, but those games were both finished. I didn't buy Vanguard because it might get good in the future. I didn't buy Battlefield, and I most certainly will not be buying more unfinished games because until games are releasing in a good state, I don't see a point in playing them. Why play a game that's shit? If it's not fun, why play it? Think of all the classics that you could be playing right now. Some of you guys haven't played GTA 4 or the Metal Gear series, and you're telling me you're putting your time into Vanguard? You gotta change that right away. Get a PC or buy some old consoles and just start playing some of the classics until gaming gets better. That's my personal advice. And if you want to continue playing Vanguard, stuff like that, I can't stop you, obviously. What I can tell you is that one day your wallet's probably going to run out of money, and you're going to be left with a bunch of shitty Tracer bundles for your Vanguard character, and a bunch of armor sets for Halo Infinite, a game that's already dead after a couple months of release. I didn't even talk about stuff like the Definitive Edition or Cyberpunk in this video, because that's just not even worth discussing. Those games are embarrassments in their own right, but until we see a change in the industry, I'm going to keep my expectations for games extremely low, and I suggest you do the same.